Hello and welcome. We're going to do something a little different today. No gameplay video, nothing like that. I had some requests to show how I go about doing kind of the things I do, and I'm just going to walk you through some of the things that I do to bring you products that I have on my website. Today we're going to be creating a optics mount for Glock series. So it's going to be a Picatinny/Weaver rail mount that goes onto the front of your Glock pistol, and it's going to curve around and put a Picatinny rail up top to allow you to put optics. Now, I've actually had a commission to do this for a customer who wanted a sideways racing optic. I've designed that, but it didn't really work out because the tolerances were not great. So I'm just going to start from scratch and show you the process of doing it. So first thing is we're going to go ahead and define our planes. I of course use SolidWorks, and the first thing I'm going to do is to start the female mounting point. So I have a reference, let me pull it up here. I have a reference file for Picatinny and Weaver rails. That's this right here. So we're going to be making a cutout of this that will go onto the bottom of the block, and we're going to tolerance it correctly. So I'm going to move this image over to my other monitor here where I can get it out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle to kind of get my frame in the center. Okay, like so. And female, so it's going to be I guess first I'll draw a Picatinny rail. It'll look something like this. And of course I am using SolidWorks. Big fan of SolidWorks. These are going to be vertical. These are going to be perpendicular, I believe. Yes, perpendicular. This point to this point is 15.67 millimeters. The far point to the far point is going to be 21.2 millimeters. The height of this is going to be 9.32 millimeters. Excellent. And this dot here, come on, this dot here and this dot here need to be horizontal to one another. And this need to be perpendicular. Oop. That's because this and this need to be collinear. Something else is wrong. Yes. This and that. These lines need to be even. And 15.67. And they also need to line up with this dot here, which is, I think it's midpoint. How do I do this here? Okay. This dot and this dot. And make them vertical. Still not right. What do I need to do? Make this and this equal. Make these horizontal. Okay, everything's locked in. There we have our Picatinny rail. Okay, so our mount is going to be the opposite of this. So I'm going to highlight all of these, and I'm going to say they are for construction. Alright. So, whenever you are making parts for 3D printing, you're going to want to... Now, does that look right? Something looks wrong here. I think something is still off. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct. Everything's black, so... we'll just run with it. Okay, so whenever you're creating parts for 3D printing, what you're going to want to do is give yourself some nice tolerances. So it's going to look like the shape that we have, but it's going to have some space on the outside of it, which will allow it to fit, because if it's the exact same size, it's never going to fit. So it will look something like, my mouse is really slow. I'm usually a lot faster, but because I'm using this recording software, it's slowing me down quite a bit here. So I'm going to leave a half millimeter space on all the dimensions, and we got to make sure that this line and this line are parallel, otherwise it won't work. And half a millimeter is usually pretty good for a nice easy slide-on fit. Picatinny rails, they need to be tight, but they don't need to be too tight, because you have a pin that you can put in there and you can screw it together and make it kind of squeeze the Picatinny rail to make it stronger, and we're gonna go over all that. So making sure all our okay. There's our sketch. Perfect. Now, how wide do we want it? I have, you can't see it, but in front of me I have my airsoft Glock, and I'm going to be taking some measurements. So my slide is 25.35 millimeters thick, and ideally I'd like this mount to be the same size, but I want to make sure that if I make it 25.35, whoops, 25.35, that we're going to have enough room to make sure that the 3D print is strong, because if it's ever too thin, then obviously things will break, especially if we're going to be mounting optics on this. We're going to want this really strong. So I'm going to draw a line down the middle here, and that'll allow me to make sure everything's center. Symmetric. Excellent. Now, how far do we want this to go? That is the question. Well, it depends on whether or not we want to put a secondary Picatinny rail for those of you guys that like to run flashlights. And you know what? I think we do, because I think that would be really cool looking. So let's go ahead and give ourselves maybe a good 5 millimeters of clearance, so it's nice and strong. This is still blue. Why? What can I still change here? Yes, this line needs to be horizontal. So in SolidWorks, if you have anything that's blue, it just means it's not knocked down, not locked down. It's not necessarily bad. It just means that things are not they're not locked down. So we're going to go ahead and extrude our boss, and the front of my Glock is, or the rail of my Glock at least, is about 40 millimeters. So I'm going to make this 40 millimeters long. Okay, and that's the little piece that's going to go on the front of your Glock. Now, the Glock has a little space for a pin, and then that space is going to be about 4 millimeters thick, and it comes in at about 20 millimeters in. So we're going to go ahead and cut that now, just because we have it ready. So to do this, I'm going to slice my model in half, so I see what's what. I'm going to put it right in the middle of that rail. So I'm going to put it right in the middle of this rail right here. And I said it's, I forgot, how long is it? It's about 21 millimeters in. And this doesn't need to be exact, because it'll allow your rail to kind of be adjusted as you do it. Actually, if I make it 15, it'll have to sit lower, so I'm gonna want to make it a little larger. That way it sits forward a little bit. So if it's 21, I'm gonna make 22 millimeters. And the space is a roughly 4mm hole. Now I like using M2.5 screws simply because I have a lot of them. So, well, you know, I don't know. Actually, let's just go bigger, just for kicks. So if it's got a 4mm hole, I'll cut a 3.5mm hole in my rail, and then you can put a 3.5mm metric screw and nut over there. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this, and then if we take a look at that, that's where our little screw is gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and cut down a recess for our screw to sit. Now, I need to make sure that when I cut this recess, that I'm not making the material too thin, because if I make it too thin, this rail is going to break. So, we'll make this 6. That should be big enough. And this recess is going to be for the head of the screw to sit in. So if I make it 2mm deep, oof, that's, yeah, we need more meat on our thing. So I cut in 2mm and already I'm cutting through the other side. So even though our Glock slide width is this, we're gonna have to make it a little thicker. So no matter, go back here, edit the sketch. We can put another, let's say, 2mm on each side. So go from 25 to 27. 25 to 27. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, cutting it close. Cutting it real close. Let's give it a little more meat. Of course, the cool thing with 3D printing is you can always change it and reprint it, but it doesn't cost you very much. All you lose is time. But okay, so we got our recess cut on one side. You're going to stick in a 3mm screw on that side. It's going to come out over here, and then in order to hold it, we're going to give it a hex nut. Now, I don't know the dimensions of a 3.5mm nut, and normally I would look this up, but because I'm doing this on video, I'm just going to cut it first and then go and get dimensions later. But for M3, I'm just going to assume it's 7mm. I'm going to cut this too deep. Okay, cool. So you're going to stick your little nut in here, you're going to stick a screw through there, and then you're going to tighten it, and it should hopefully be tight. Now, a trick I learned is if you've got a solid piece like this, chances are this is not going to get very tight. So what I like to do, and from what I can tell, it doesn't really take away from the strength of it, is what I like to do is I like to cut a little thing in the middle, like so. And the size of this can change depending on how we want it, but we do want to make sure that at least we've got a nice meaty, and 1mm is not meaty. So 2mm? Yeah, there we go. 2mm is decent. We're going to cut this in the middle, and that way when you stick the screw in and you tighten the screw, this will actually bend together and make it a really, really nice tight fit. So when you have sharp, squarish edges like right here, it makes it very weak and have a potential for breaking. So what I like to do is add some fillets. Like so, and of course 10mm is too big. We'll try 2. 2 is too big. 1mm fillets. There you go. That's a nice and simple mount. Okay, so there's the front of the gun, there's the rear of the gun, and we're gonna make a mount that goes up above the Glock and then at the Picatinny rail. Okay, so if I'm holding my Glock here and I'm right-handed, the mount, to have it not affect my grip, will come out on the side, go above the slide, and then add a Picatinny rail. So we'll start with something very simple, just like this. And what I like to do, for me anyways, is when I CAD things, I like to keep things as simple as possible first, and then make it very pretty later. Some people like to kind of do it as they go so that they integrate it, but I like to worry about that kind of stuff afterwards. So from the bottom of my mount, actually that measurement is not where I want it. Go away. Wow, the computer is very slow with this being recorded. There we go. So, from the middle of my rail to the top of my slide is roughly 34 millimeters. 35 millimeters. 35 millimeters. Oh no, I have sights too. So to the top of my sights, I have 38 millimeters. So if I make this 40 millimeters from the side of the rail, that should be plenty of room. So if I make it 40, like so, and I'm going to go ahead and convert this hexagon. Will it let me? No, it won't let me. Okay, that's fine. I'll just draw it again. No big deal. Draw this hexagon again. Come on. Alright, what we're going to do is extrude this bad boy out. And for this mount, which is going to be, carrying a heavy optic, you're going to want something pretty thick. Now, my only fear is that this will affect your grip. Right, I'm holding the Glock like this. You can't see this, but I'm actually holding my my airsoft Glock in my hand right now. That should be okay. Actually, it should be okay. Well, we'll find out. Okay, so this is at this edge right here. We've now cleared the slide, which means we could probably start on our optic. So it'll come to here. Right, good. And then we're going to want this 5 high, that should be plenty. Right, and I realize it's ugly, but that's okay, because we can make it pretty later. Function is the most important thing right now. Run this out. I'm going to give it a nice long Picatinny rail. So from the front of this to the back of my Glock is roughly 130 millimeters. So as long as I make it, I don't know, let's just say 100 millimeters, that should be plenty. So, and I don't know how long this is, so we're going to make this just 90. No, that's probably too long. Let's make it 70. Let's go up and measure and see how far it is. 108. Perfect. That's actually good. So, obviously this little flat bar here thing looks pretty damn ugly, but first thing I'm going to do, as I said before, is I like to craft my structure first and make it pretty afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and put in our Picatinny rail right now. This one, because it's going to actually be the Picatinny rail, we're going to do that to exact specifications. So Picatinny rail is 15.67 millimeters on the inner. It is a total of 9.32 millimeters high. The teeth. Oop, I missed. The teeth. My lord, that's ugly. Let's go ahead and mirror that by this axis here. Okay, the teeth length is 21.2. These are perpendicular. And you're still not. Why? What did I do wrong? Ah, they must be equal. This and this must be equal. Perfect. Everything's black. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to extrude this boss. It wants me to select contours, so I'll go ahead and select contours from there. We'll go up to a surface. Up to this surface here. And now we cut our ridges. So Picatinny rail ridges are 5.25 millimeters wide. And they are 3 millimeters deep. I'm going to cut that through everything. Boom, our first ridge. I'm going to take this linear pattern all the way to the back, as many times as you can, more times than that, and they are 10 millimeters apart. Perfect. And there's our Picatinny rail. Okay, so there's no real need to have this here, so I'm going to shave that off. And I'm going to do that by cutting it. So cut this here, and then cut this here. So one of the things that I've learned, actually let's cut it all the way here. One of the things that I've learned CADing stuff for Airsoft is that a lot of times what I originally did was I would actually go back and change the values of this boss. When I first extruded this rectangular boss, I would go back and change the values. And that would mess things up because I've already made this Picatinny rail on top of it. And what would actually happen is that Picatinny rail would screw up and I'd have to go back and fix that. In my experience, it's much easier to just cut and mold things from where you are now, and if you need to change them, you can just do another cut, etc., because then it'll keep track of your progress, which is very important. Did I get my height correctly? Can I do this? 9.32. Yes, I did. Okay, perfect. So yeah, instead of making this thinner from when I extruded it the first time, it's much easier for me to just go ahead and recut it and clean it up that way. That way I have a log of everything I've done, and I can kind of go back and move this blue bar up, and it'll show me what step I have. See? So, you know, instead of making this shorter at this step, which then screws up all the other steps, I just go ahead and introduce the cuts I need. Okay, that's a very simple mount. Now all we have to do is clean it up a little bit and make it look cool. And that'll be that. So, first things first, give us some fillets for strength. Now, I don't like how this ends on a cut. I actually want it to end on a boss, and I'm going to do exactly what I told you I don't do, but that's okay because I know what I'm doing. I think it's this boss. Yes, instead of going up 70, I'm going up 90. Will that change? No, too much. Actually, it does every 10 millimeters, so you're going to not want to do in terms of 10. Let's try 5 millimeters. A little bit more. Oop. How about 7 millimeters? Oops, 77 millimeters. Okay, cool. That looks a lot better. Alright, perfect. Now, I want to add a fillet in here, but I'm scared that this fillet is going to rub on the side of my slide. And I'm scared I didn't make this tall enough. So, okay, so what I said before about going in and you know, cutting it from where it is, you do that if you can. Now, obviously, if I want to raise this thing, I can't easily add material here because if I add a boss here, it's going to keep everything else where it is. So in this case, I have to go back and change it. But if I could, I would just continue from where I left off. So we're going to give it another maybe 44, 48, 43 millimeters of clearance, and that'll let me get a 5mm fillet in, I hope. We'll find out. Five millimeter fillet. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and fillet this edge, which does not need to be sharp. Oh, not that. Come on. Let's go ahead and fillet this edge. While we're at it, go ahead and fillet this, and this, and this in here. And these I can make a bit bigger, I think. Let's try 10mm. Ooh, too big. Oh, maybe. Yeah, this is gonna end up hitting the back of my gun, and that's gonna be what ends up stopping it. So that is too big. We'll go with 7. Okay, there you go. Very simple mount. I'd usually engrave something in. You know what? Let's just do it. Why not? Since I have you all here, I'm gonna engrave my company in here because that's what I like to do. Just so that there's no mistake whose video you're watching. CronoArms Customs. I want to use the font that I always use. If you didn't know, the font that you see in all my videos is actually Impact. And we want this spaced out a little bit. We're going to want it a lot bigger than that. Let's try 22 point. Oh, we can get way bigger than that. Let's try 28 point. A little bigger. 36. Oof, pushing it. Oh, let's just try it. Take this, engrave it in, make it 2mm deep. There you go. CronoArms Customs. CronoArm. I forgot an S. CronoArms. Because we sell arms, not arm. Toy arms. People will ask what I do. I say I sell toy guns. Okay. There you have it. Glock mounts. Very nice and simple. I'll throw this on the printer and I'll let you know what comes out. Thanks for watching. Haha! I'm not done yet. I lied to you. Mostly because we were supposed to add a bottom Picatinny rail here, and we never did that. So let's go ahead and do that. And when we add the Picatinny rail, it'll allow us to cut this deeper and still maintain strength. So let me bring up my reference. Draw a center line down the middle. Wait, I was going to use this as a reference, but I forgot. This is tolerance differently. So let's not use that as a reference. Good thing I remembered. Same thing we've been doing. Oop, this needs to line up with this. It's currently 3 a.m. in Arizona. I'm I'm doing this for you guys. So I don't sleep very much. In case you're wondering, I work a job on top of this, so, and I am working tomorrow. I come home from oh, look at that, it's not even. Why? Why? Because this and this are not symmetrical. Make this symmetrical. Perfect. This, let's go over here. This and this to equal and perpendicular. And then this to this is 21.2 millimeters. Perfect. Yeah, so I wake up and I work, and then I go to work, and then I come home from work, and then proceed to do CronoArms. So, but I'm getting help soon, and I hope to get a lot of these orders out a lot faster. I know I quote a 30-day lead time on my website, and sometimes I even have trouble making that, but again, I'm getting help very soon, so hopefully you guys don't have to wait on me as long as you have to. Because who likes to wait, right? You buy something, you wanna see it as soon as possible. That's the whole allure of like Amazon Prime. Actually, let me give it a bit more meat on the front here to do that. Four points in the front. This, because that makes 10. Perfect. Alright, the pattern. This. It ends up being a cut, not a bar on the last, but it is what it is because that's the length of your Glock. Okay, cool. Alright, let's now we can throw this on the printer. Actually no, I lie again. Let's make this cut a little deeper. Now I can actually do what I preach and saying that, you know, instead of going back and changing this, because you wouldn't be able to, because SolidWorks is a chronological thing. So if I went back and I tried to cut it, it'd cut through this and then it would mess this up. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to come up here, go up here, here. And now that, you know, I have all this meat down here, I can give myself a much bigger safety factor, because all this meat will hold on together. Oh, that's interesting. I missed. Okay, perfect. We will run with that, and yeah, I understand it's probably going to be sharp here. We'll round this out. I'm actually going to do a whole Glock, either a carbine kit or a whole front suppressor kit, and I'll add like a rail up here for you to put barrel attachments, but that'll come another day. For now, I just want to make sure that what I designed here fits, it's sturdy, it works. Okay, thanks for watching.